So welcome everybody. This is the 5th class in our negotiations and contract analysis module of our course in English for Logistics. And today we have the honor of featuring Daniel Sebastiani, who is a logistics manager at the Home Depot in Georgia. And he's speaking to us directly from the United States. Welcome, Daniel. Thank you so much for being with us.
It's a great pleasure to be here today and share my experience with you guys.
Excellent. So look, Daniel, the floor is yours, unless Mauricio has something to say before that.
Nope, go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome. Welcome to our class, Daniel.
Thanks so much for the opportunity today. As just was introduced to you guys, my name is Daniel Sebastiani. I have 20 plus years experience with logistics. I can say I've been around. I lived 5 years in Argentina, 4 years in Peru, and now almost 6 years in the United States, living in Georgia. Most of my experience has been with, electronics companies, but now I'm on the retail side of the business, learning a lot. My main responsibility with Home Depot is channel management. It's a specific department that controls the flow of the products from the vendors to the stores and from the vendors to the end consumer, meaning .com business or online business. I'm responsible for the flooring department right now, which the tile and everything related to flooring. So if you don't know what tile is, it's azulejos in Portuguese. So everything that's for bathrooms or planks, vinyl flooring or wooden flooring. So everything related to it. So I'm in contact with several vendors or suppliers for this department, from tile to wood planks to any tools related to it, caulk, grout, which is grout is the what we put between the tile, the joints. So that everything related to this department. And I'm in charge of 2 analysts. One is overseeing the core side of the business, which is the vendor to the stores, and the other one is more related to .com business. So yeah, here we are today to talk about negotiations and contracts. So basically, I would like to say, not only for this subject, but everything, including your career, building relationships or network is the most important thing. So if you want to have a very good experience, or at least be successful negotiating, building network, building relationships is very important. I have a very vast network. I know lots of people, and it's important, like sometimes, to have that to help other people to find jobs, but it's also to network, find solutions, and succeed on your negotiation. Because let's say today you are looking for a warehousing service or I don't know, distribution or freight. You can look on your network and see like, oh, Mauricio knows Laura, who is a very important person in the freight company, and then you can get this contact and having discussions and starting negotiating at least, or know the business better. So my advice is build a network, always treat others with respect, and have the communication open all the times. And don't treat a negotiation as a pure transactionally experience. Go beyond that, build this relationship, because when you look for freight or for rates or for everything, the relationship will help you to have a better rates or a better results. Okay. So also, when the operation starts, after you conclude your negotiations and you have a contract in place, this also having this network will help you find solutions and improve your operations, everything is based on this trust and this relationship. Another piece of advice is before anything starts, put together a no disclosure agreement, or we call NDA. Even in Brazil or any country, we always have this signed by both sides of both companies that are negotiating. This NDA is just to avoid any information to leak to the market and avoid your internal information going to competitors. Basically, because you're gonna share very important information such as volume, prices, or costs, or everything related to your operations. So if your competitors knows that, it's not gonna be very good for your results or for your business. And also, before any negotiation starts, you need to know your own operation, any details, everything. So also gather market rates, understand where the market stands at the time, know the demands or the dynamic of your business, and also don't limit yourself to negotiate to a single logistics service provider or ALSP. Try to find or understand in the market which are the best players. I would say at least 3. We usually contact more than that. I have experience in the past when I was in Peru. We were looking for a warehousing operation, and we probably reach out to 10 or more vendors or suppliers, and then you start refining. You set up calls or meetings with them, and then go to their facility, visit their operations, and start checking boxes like, this is what I want. Oh, I don't like this warehouse, it's too dark, or the location is not good. Consider also their products. Like when I was in Peru, I was working for a huge company that sells electronics. So sometimes you don't want to have electronics in a bad area. You know that for a fact that's they're gonna try to rob you. So being very specific. So you want to be sometimes either close to the airport or to the port or close to your customers. You need to do a study like, what do I want to do? What's more important to me? Is be close to the inbound or close to the outbound operations? Where my warehouse should be, all that stuff. And then understand the reason why you want to be there, the cost of being there. So in the end, we decided to be close to the inbound because our importation costs were higher. Peru was not a big country, so it was easier to do the deliveries because everything is like an hour away from the warehouse we want to be. And everything is very small shipments or LTL shipments, so it's easy to ship further than have an inbound or heavy inbound to that place if you want to be close to the customers. So don't limit yourself to 1 or 2 LSPs. Find more. Also because you're gonna get lots of rates, and that's gonna be beneficial for you to analyze and find the right balance. Do I want a better service, a better quality of service, or do I need a better rate? Sometimes I was discussing that 2 days ago with Mauricio, like having a better rate sometimes not the right answer because you're gonna have a poor service, and then you're gonna have more complaints from your customers. You're gonna have more damage. You're gonna have, just it's not gonna be a good decision, at least from my experience. So try to find a balance, or using your negotiation, get the best quality provider and try to push towards using the tariffs you receive from the other vendors. Try to bring the tariffs close to that target. And also It's important also when you have more leverage to negotiating, like a bigger operation, it's easier to overcome, tariff differences and everything. So if you have a smaller operation, it's more complicated because you don't have leverage to negotiate or power to negotiate. That's something like Home Depot has. Like, we manage lots or thousands of trucks per day. We have 2,300 stores, more than 50 warehouses across the country. So we have leverage, and we use that power to negotiate with our suppliers. So, for example, when I'm negotiating with a tile supplier and they ship to us 10 trucks per day, the tariffs that the market rates for him is way higher than the tariffs Home Depot has. So when I push them to bring their loads from prepaid or FOB, when we go to collect, we're gonna have a much better rate. So it's easier for me to go and say, hey, how much is your logistics cost compared to the flow we have today? They're probably gonna say 12, 15%. So when I rate the same lanes, I'm gonna get 8, 9% probably, in the worst case. So then what I can do is say, well, I can do the service for you. So give me 10% discount on your first cost, on the product cost, and I will do the logistics for you. So did you understand what I just said? I have a 9% cost, but I'm charging 10%. So I have 1% buffer or 1% margin on my business, which is huge. We're talking about millions, sometimes billions of dollars, on COGS or COGS meaning cost of goods flowing, of goods sold. So when you take 1 or 2%, is a lot of money. So that's leverage, right? So when it comes to contracts, after you do all the negotiations, make sure you have the tools you need to compare the tariffs. Just coming back another thing I was forgetting about, negotiation. Like, when you ask or when you're bidding, for example, let's say you're bidding for freight, build first an Excel spreadsheet where you just simply input the tariffs you're going to receive from the market, and you're going to have the results, how that impact on my business. Some companies I worked at before, they call, for example, CDP, cost per box. Some other companies is year-round cost, like total logistics cost. Some companies measure by monthly cost. So make sure, how do I measure? What is the impact? If the tariff goes from 10 to 15, what is the impact on my product? What is the impact on logistics expenses? So make sure first you build 2 spreadsheets, one to request the quotation. So don't be flexible there, because if you ask for freight quotations, some companies will, you're going to receive rates by weight. Sometimes you're going to receive by truck, by full truckloads. It depends on where you're quoting and what's this type of service. So make sure you have the right format. So you request the vendor or the supplier to fill out in blanks, like, oh, how much is gonna be for me to ship from A to B, in the format you need, because then it's gonna be easier for you just to copy and paste on your own spreadsheet where you're comparing the vendor 1, 2, and 3 tariffs. And also when now talking about contracts, right? What do you think is easier for you, to quote a full service like warehousing and distribution, or have 2 separate contracts, like one for warehousing and another vendor for transportation? It depends, but think about the complexity, for example, of having a vendor A giving you a service of warehousing and another 3PL giving you a service of transportation. Why I'm saying that? Because let's say one day the freight transportation company gets late for the pickup, and then you'll be in the middle of the battle where the warehouse is saying, well, they arrived late, and then the transportation company is going to say, no, I arrived on time, but the load was not prepared for me to pick up. So, and usually you're not in the operation. You are seated in a different place, in an office, I don't know, 5 kilometers away from the operations. So you don't know what's going on unless you have very good systems. But you're probably not gonna have gate in, gate out, all that information on your system. It's probably gonna be the warehouse systems, or your provider is gonna have that. But it's hard to say. Or sometimes because your warehousing provider can also provide you transportation, they're gonna be very picky and say, well, it's my regulation that we cannot accept trucks with signs of or lights not working, things like that, and they block your truck to go inside of their facility. So then you're gonna have a problem. So think about it. What do I need? What is easier for me? Do I have enough people to control 2 contracts, or is it easier to have a single contract with a single provider and then manage just a single contract? It's gonna be 1 invoice per month, everything combined, or maybe 2. You probably need one for warehousing and another one for freight. But when you receive freight invoices, probably gonna be per shipment, so it's gonna be lots of complexity there. So, and also, as I said before, you're gonna have more leverage when you're negotiating warehouse and transportation together with a single or more companies. At least you're gonna have better rates rather than negotiating warehouse for one side and freight from another side. And also when you are talking about contract as well, be specific, like warehousing, what does entails that? Like, if you don't go in a specific saying like warehousing, meaning that from arrival of the goods, goods in, stocking, and then picking up the goods, separating, and prepare for shipment. Make sure when you write a contract or when you are, checking the contract, everything is very detailed and saying everything that need to be done on the service. And then, of course, KPIs or service level agreement, you need to be specific, like what I'm checking, what I need to check every month. Like you need to reach, for example, for freight, on-time delivery, I need to be 95% or 90%, it depends. On time in full, detention, everything, any KPIs that you need to be there. Warehousing, you need to have order accuracy, inventory accuracy, order processing, returns, everything. And then international, probably the mourages, how many truckloads you need, everything related to it, how many, processes or whatever. And then sometimes you need customer satisfactions, the CSATs as well to be involved. For example, it depends if your warehousing is also fulfilling the orders for you. So CSATs is very important, because if they're not packing the products correctly and you using the perfect timing and everything, you're gonna receive lots of complaints from your vendors or from your customers. Sorry, oh, the order got late or damaged, everything. I don't want to spoiler a bit on Mauricio's presentation later today, but also remember about penalties, liability for direct or indirect damages. So, and then also be specific on, well, I'm charging you my cost, or I'm gonna charge you the market value of the product if you damage it. And then what I'm gonna do with the product, you're just gonna pay it and you keep it, or it has to be destroyed? Because For example, for Samsung, one of the companies I worked for, we used to destroy the products, because otherwise you're gonna have your products going to a second or aftermarket, and you don't want that. Another important thing on contracts is the contract terms, meaning the duration of the contract. For example, for warehousing, you're probably gonna be looking for 2+ years. The longer the contract, better tariffs you're gonna receive. But for freight, you're probably gonna want to review the contract every year, because tariffs can go, well, that's a trade-off. The tariffs can go up or can go down. It depends on the market, but like during COVID, the tariffs went up really high here because of the availability. Fuel went up, so everything went up. But usually tariffs can go down. But you wanna review distribution probably yearly. But for warehousing, you're probably not gonna find anyone willing to give you a less than 2-year service, because that requires a warehouse, which is a big facility, and they don't want you to just be a year and then move out and try to find another vendor. So you want a longer term contract. And then there will be specific is for example, one of the companies I worked for didn't want the same provider that I have to be providing service to a competitor. So sometimes you need exclusivity, because you don't want your information to go to the market, and you don't want your competitor. So you usually don't, for electronics, we don't share the same logistics service provider. We usually try to find a different one. But it depends on the market. Sometimes you simply don't care. Yeah, I don't know. By the way, one thing about contracts management. After you have a contract in place, one important thing is to establish a cadence, or monthly, usually is a quarterly. We call quarterly business review, QBRs, which is basically a meeting where both companies, the provider and your company, is gonna be there and review the results of the operation, and then see how the operation is going. Obviously, you need to check monthly. It's gonna be a manager thing to be checking your operation day by day and try to mitigate issues, but the QBR is more related to see how the operation is going compared to your contract. Make sure you review the KPIs and the service level agreements, any operational issue, challenges, and changes in the business, in the market, what is trending, what you're looking for next year. Maybe you want to increase your operation 20%, or you want to pursue a new market. So having this kind of a relationship, again, going back again to the beginning of this conversation, relationship is key. So your vendor or your supplier sometimes bring very good ideas to you. Sometimes they work with a different kind of products, and they can bring the ideas you never had before. So being open with your supplier or your logistics service provider can give you very good or refreshing ideas as well. I don't know. And am I missing something, Mauricio?
No, not at all. I'm just here, just listening to you and just thinking about, since I've worked in the United States, but that was before the pandemic. So my question to you is, what did you feel of the changes, for example, in the United States, and what is making the imbalance in the negotiations today relating to, for example, inflation or fuel prices? How do you feel that negotiations in the United States nowadays? What are the main differences that you feel before and after the pandemic related to negotiations?
During the pandemic, the freight tariffs went very high, mainly because of the the lack of availability of trucks and drivers as well. And the fuel went up as well. So both, well, here in the US, it's important to mention we have the freight rate plus the fuel surcharge, which is most likely you see that in Brazil, at least in the import side of the business, when you're, Mauricio knows that better than I do. I hate importation process, but anyway. But here in the US, you have a freight tariff, and then you have the fuel surcharge, which means that the quantity of fuel that you're gonna need to move the products from Georgia to Ohio, they know how much fuel probably you need to move it, so the fuel is gonna be charged separately. So both pieces went up really high. It's coming back, but the fuel is still high. Another thing that we had over the pandemic was that lack of products. And we are now in a better position, but the company I'm working for now, Home Depot, our inventory was really high because during the pandemic, if you say, well, I don't know, toilets, for example, I have 1,000 toilets in my inventory, give it to me. So they are buying everything that was available. First, to have, just because we have the power to buy it. Second, because we needed the inventory, and to avoid our competitors to do the same and buy it. So we probably not gonna have the inventory, and you would only be able to find toilets, for example, in our competitors. So we had a very high inventory until last year. Last year, we were able to work and flush this inventory out. So now we are much more healthier inventory perspective than we were before. I think those were the biggest impacts in any operation during the pandemic. And obviously, lack of people willing to work, so because of that, some salaries went high as well. So when you were looking for, manpower, was very complicated as well.
I have one more question before we move to the students, but I mean, you mentioned very important things such as hidden costs, check your own needs before you get into a negotiation, how much important it is networking and relationship. And one of the things that you mentioned is the leverage, right? Being on the buyer side, what are the characteristics on a negotiation in United States that you feel that are different from Brazil or Peru? What are the main characteristics on negotiations? Americans are very straight to the point. Sometimes there are tricks that they try to make to us, kind of like ambiguity or things like that. What could you say about that experience in the American market, Daniel?
I think it's more a cultural difference, I would say. As you said, Americans is more straightforward and business driven. They're not gonna, if they are practicing a tariff in the market, obviously if they are wanting to do business with Home Depot, for example, they will try to decrease the tariff a bit and be more attractive. But usually if their tariff is 10, it's going to be 10 for everyone, or maybe they can do a better price depending on your volume. But if you go to South America in reality, price can go from 10 to 30. It depends on the day, depends on how much I want to do this business, or, it's different. Like
it's less stable, let's say.
Yeah,
stable, right?
Yeah, it's not only in Brazil, but it's around South America, and it's funny, like they are always trying to take advantage of everything. So it's hard. You need to be cautious. So yeah, if you succeed in South America, you're gonna be successful here as well.
It's not for amateurs, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm done with my questions. So feel free to open your mics and ask questions to Daniel. He's here to give us the dope, as we say. Go
After
ahead. Bob.
Bruna, teacher.
Mhm.
After Bruna.
Okay, Bruna, go
After
ahead.
you, Bruna, please.
Okay, no problem. Hi, Daniel.
Hello.
So you were saying about the cultural difference on American negotiations. I work as an import analyst at a large company here in the city, and we import several kinds of components, mainly from Asia. But now we have a new supplier from the US, and I'm feeling the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, because actually they put how can I say like a representative in Brazil,
Okay.
and yeah, I have to talk to this person only. They don't want to receive emails from me anymore. Like very straight. Don't talk to me. Talk to the person that represents me in Brazil. And I was
Mhm.
shocked at first, but it's cultural. I understand.
It is. Yeah.
I lived there a couple years ago for a cultural exchange. I lived in Maryland for 2 years, but the host family that hosted me, they were like Brazilian, I would say, but their families, their relatives, I could feel a difference. Maybe they were open-minded to have a girl from another country in their house, but I could feel the difference from from their relatives, their friends. So I agree with you when you say it's something cultural. It's not that they negotiate in a different way that we could not
Yeah.
understand, but it's something that they were created like that. I
Yeah.
don't, I just wanted to say that I agree with you in that point. And I'm facing this in my job
Yeah.
recently.
I have the lucky to work for different companies, European, Asian, Brazilian, American companies, mostly American. And it's different. Like, for example, one of the companies I worked for was Nokia. They were Finnish, from Finland. So during the summer, you couldn't find anyone working in the company. Everyone was on vacation. So yeah, you couldn't make any decision, during their summer, which
That
right
happens
now.
in Spain. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
supplier from Spain, and they sent an email saying we'll be out during the August month due to
yep,
summer vacation, and you really can't reach anyone.
yeah.
Like
Spain,
it's
they
like
do the
a
siesta. Yeah,
yeah, it's a 1 month siesta, right?
yeah. And then
It's
Asian
funny.
are complicated as well. Like if they are Chinese and you say, happened to me before, like, oh, we have a problem and this is happening and blah blah blah, and the contract says that you should be providing me this service. Oh, the contract's problem. We can, make a new contract. So instead of fixing the issue, they were trying to make the new contract, or change the contract. So that's the importance of the contract, right? You have a specific SLA, so you need to follow the SLA, not change the contract and change the SLA. Koreans are, like they have expatriated people and they call dispatcher. So for each, director, for example, one logistics director, the service director, the marketing director, the sales director, there's a Korean director for each department. So it's tricky because sometimes you go and talk to the local guy, but the dispatcher, the other director, which is the Korean guy, is not aligned. So you need to get two agreements for the same thing, or try to have both in the same room, and then have a definition of both together at the same time. Is easier. And American
Wow.
is more straightforward. As you said, you probably were lucky with the Maryland family. They were more open. Yeah, because receiving
Look.
someone at their houses, it's very, you have to be open-minded here to do that. So it's not something common, and they are different. You know, you feel like you have good friends at work, but they are just colleagues in the end. They're not going to invite you for a lunch or for their house in the weekend. No, I have lots of friends here, but they are usually Argentinian, Chilean, Colombian, some Brazilian. So yeah, Americans, we have a few of them, but they never invited me to their house. This is it's very different. But yeah.
It's funny because it's a huge difference for us. Because in Brazil we are like
Oh yeah,
together all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, it's funny.
that's true.
Go ahead, Laura. It's your turn.
Hey, Daniel.
Hello,
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
nice to meet you too. How can I help?
I am sure that I've got all my answers just in 30 minutes.
All right.
Hearing you say, yeah. Actually, I formulate four, but I will answer, I will ask something different. Of course, if you feel comfortable.
Of course, go ahead.
I would like to know about your journey until you reach at this company now that you are working nowadays in USA, how it was for you.
Well, a bit of lucky, a bit of um, you know, experience and everything. So I started my journey in 1994. At the time, Mercosul was just starting. My dad was expatriated from Brazil to Argentina, where we lived 5 years. So I was 19 years old. I was very young. I started my, my college or university there. And then I did 6 months, internship in a company. And then when my father's contract finished, we moved it back to Brazil. But I'm originally from Sao Paulo. But when we got back to Brazil, I went to Porto Alegre. My dad was transferred again to Canoas, which is a city, 30 kilometers away from Porto Alegre. And then luckily, I got an internship there in the same factory that my father was working. I worked there for 2 years. I did 1 year internship and then I was hired as an analyst for logistics. I started as being, engineering internship, and then it became like a logistics internship because they need someone to, to create packaging or boxes to bring the products or the parts to the operation. So I started doing that. And then after a year, I said, you know what, I need to move on with my career and find another place because working in the same company that your father works is not good. Everybody thinks you are there because of your father. And I decided to move on, and I found a place for me at Dell Computers, which is also in South America, in Porto Alegre area. So I worked for them for 2 years, and then my senior manager was hired by Nokia in Sao Paulo, and he knows that I was from Sao Paulo as well. And after 6 months or so, he contacted me, say, "Well, I'm a director here at Nokia. I have a position open, and I need someone from my trust for this position. Are you willing to come back to Sao Paulo?" So I said, yeah. And then he hired me as a coordinator for the planning and replenishment department. I did this job for 6 years almost. And then I got laid off. So not everything is, good stuff. I was laid off when Nokia was going down. It was sold to Microsoft and everything. I stayed 1 year unemployed, and then was very hard to find a job. And then I tried to try something new. I decided to try something new. I went to a very small company to help them selling, home theaters, automation systems to their house. And then you're probably gonna ask me, why did you, abandon, 7 or no, I would say almost 10 years, 8 to 10 years logistics experience to be a salesman. Well, I want to see how is being a salesman, what drives a sales guy, and understand from the other side of the business as well. And then, that was very important for me because suddenly a year after that, Samsung was hiring someone in the logistics department because they were having problems, communication problems between logistics and sales. They need someone to translate, to be a middleman, to connect with sales and help them understand what the logistics process looks like and help them with their customers. So I did a very good interview with a guy who is a friend nowadays, and I was hired as a supervisor to be the middleman guy, like be between, logistics and the sales, help them understand our KPIs, why we delivering that way, and help them, explain to customers and everything. And then my director said, well, I visited recently the US operations, Samsung US operations, and in San Diego, and they have a logistics customer service department that handles all the contact points with the customers, Walmart, Best Buy, and everything. So I want you to create a similar thing here in Brazil. So I had 5 supervisors spread in Brazil, one in the south, one in the southeast, one in the north, northeast, and the Middle East. So those guys were the main contact points for logistics in the customer. So, for example, Magazine Luiza had a problem with our deliveries or a project or something. That guy, my guy, would go there and discuss all the problems, monthly, review the KPIs and everything. And then my wife had an opportunity to move to Peru for her work. And then I went to discuss that with my vice president and told him, like, he was a Korean guy. So I'm quitting. I need to move to Peru. And then thanks so much for 5 years working here with you. And then the guy told me, hey, where are you going? I said, oh, I'm going to Peru. And he told me, that I'm the logistics vice president for Latin America, not only for Brazil. I said, yeah, I know. So let me help you. I said, oh, of course. And then they opened a position in Peru for me. They created a logistics manager position. So I quit in Brazil and they hired me in Peru. I worked there for 4 years, managing the entire logistics end to end, from import, to distribution. It was a very good experience for me. And then again, my wife was expatriated or transferred to the United States. I need to quit my job again. And that was really hard because it's different when you are in South America than when you move to the US. My first job took me more than a year to find. First, because I didn't have all the documents, took me 4 months to have all the documentation. And my wife's company was helping and sponsoring all the documentation, but it took 4 months. And then I stayed almost a year unemployed, and then because of network, and I was able to find a job, and I had to do some steps back on my career. I accept a position to, I would say, let me rephrase that. I need to do some steps back in terms of money and some different stuff, but in terms of experience, it was good for me as well. I was managing an operation, online business operation, a small warehouse with 150 employees. We refurbish, electronic devices and we sell on eBay and Amazon. But the salary was like an analyst salary, but I was doing like a senior manager job. I had 2 managers reporting to me, 3 supervisors, and then 40 clerk people working for me, on the operations. So the responsibility was for a senior manager, but the money was very low. But that was the price I need to pay for my first job. Because to be honest with you, here in the US, if you don't have local experience, it doesn't count. Even if
Yes.
you work at for Samsung, Nokia, their computers, they
It-
tend to
it
not
is-
believe.
Daniel, it is a point. I was asking you because I am just a student right now. Even I started my journey studying foreign trade, and by mistake I started logistics, and I identify myself with this course. I'd rather logistics than foreign trade, and I am working on my international career maybe in 5 years, and I've chosen a mentor. He is mentoring me, and always he's saying, USA is totally closed for sponsorship.
Yeah.
It's it's really difficult country that they will give visa, but in UA you can get it more easy. And another question for you, Daniel, and we can finish. Do you think that in USA, the companies, they must to find qualified professionals in the country, or they need to hire outside, for example, from Brazil or another country in the world?
They usually bring people from outside when they're transferring someone from the same company. Let's say they have a branch here and a branch in Brazil, or they will bring someone from Brazil to here because this person is exceeding expectations there in Brazil, and they need someone with the same experience, or they want someone that are really sure that they're gonna bring for Brazil, and the person is gonna perform. But entry level job, they tend to hire people from fresh from college, like recently, promoted from school or graduated from school. So they know these people will have very limited experience, but they did some kind of projects at school, and we do hire a lot at Home Depot analysts with almost no experience, but they're fresh from college. But from other countries, unless you have documentation like, residency or meaning green card, it's hard. They will tend to do like, they tend to go to a university or a college, do like fairs and say, well, that's Home Depot booth. We need, I don't know, 10 analysts, one for finance, one for logistics, one for service, whatever. And then they'll try to gather as much, resume as they can, and then hire from there. So I don't know if you were in the last time I was, talking about in Portuguese, obviously the inaugural classes. I mentioned that it's easier for you maybe to find a work where for a company that has a branch here in the US, or the main headquarters is here, and then push them to transfer you to the US rather than
Yes,
adventurously come here and try to find a job.
the unique chance is this way. Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
say it's the
But it's still
unique chance.
not impossible. Yeah.
No, it's not
Possible,
impossible.
for sure.
It's possible, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Even if it's not an American company, but like
Mhm.
Samsung, for example, is a Korean company, but they have, they have a very big office here. They also have office in Brazil. They can transfer you, but then you need to start, communicating to your manager and try to push. It's hard, but not impossible. But coming by yourself and try to find a job here, I would say it's nearly impossible.
Uh, Daniel, do you think for me it's better if I move to São Paulo or if I stay here? Because now I am living in Maringá, Paraná.
No, Maringá, there's very good companies there.
Yeah.
You don't need to move around. You don't need to move
Okay.
around. Honestly, I work in Porto Alegre for, Dell Computers. I work in Sao Paulo for Nokia, and then there are very good companies everywhere in Brazil, so you don't need to move around. You just need to find a company that has presence in both countries and then push. Maybe I didn't come directly to the US. You need to do like I did, move first to a country that's not the US, and then from that country you move to the US. So you start doing an international career. You're welcome.
Okay, I think everybody's happy and satisfied. And Daniel, you must be tired of speaking so much,
I'm good.
but this
you.
was really amazing, Daniel. This
you so
was
much.
very enlightening, you know. Or maybe it's just because I don't know anything about logistics and I am the foreigner here. But it was really rich and informative. How did you feel?
I feel good. I hope everyone understood, or the ones that gonna see this class later. Probably I used some words that's not usual. You need to understand that I've been here in the US for 6 years, and sometimes depending on where you are or the company you are working for, some words are different. So I hope everyone will be able to understand, and feel free to reach out to me if you need me to, make it more clear or whatever.
But you know, exactly that kind of difference makes a class like this even richer for the
Yeah.
students, because in logistics you have to talk to people from everywhere, from a lot of different regions of your country, other countries, regions in the world, and people will use different vocabulary. So this makes people, you know, more prepared for, you know, talking to people from all of these different places you can find.
Yeah, and sometimes people think that because I'm here in the US, I'm surrounded by only Americans, and that's not true. I work in a building with 7,000 people, and I need to work with data analytics team, for example. And do you think all of them are American? No, I would say 80% is probably from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. It's funny that they're not Americans. They are here like immigrants like me. And there are a lot of Latin people. This month I found 2 new Brazilians in the company. So we are connecting a lot. And so, yeah, it's a big company. So the diversity is really huge.
Yeah,
And
that's
also
why
when
we
you
have to
talk-
get used to different accents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And-
Go ahead,
And they need
Mauricio.
to understand my accent too.
Sure.
No,
The
it's
same as-
I was just gonna add that since this course is related to negotiations, right? We in logistics, we have to negotiate within our own company, the department. There's a lot of clash because logistics is usually a lot of pressure, a lot of time related things. So it's not
Rona
only
is agreeing with you.
yeah, right. So and international negotiations, you're talking the guy from Pakistan, with the guy from India, right? Just right in the corner of your office.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, as for me, thank you so much, Daniel. You're just a great guy. I follow your career, and I'm really proud that you are participating in this course and adding to us all the experience that you have. And we wish you a lot of success in the United States or whichever country that you will be. And you have to be on the right time, on the right spot. And we wish you all the success as well. Okay.
Thank you. I think this country is the last one. Not planning to move forward anymore.
All right.
Thanks so
Thanks
much,
for the
Daniel.
opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye,
Bye.
Daniel. Thanks. All right. So let's go to our class. Yes.
We
Let's
have work.
breathe.
Yeah. I thought
First,
We
let's
have-
breathe, teacher.
Huh?
Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale.
Oh, it's
Calm
just a lot
down.
of information. I'm here just like, wow,
Yes,
I love this.
wow.
Uh-huh. Well, there are just a few words that Daniel mentioned to us that I don't know if you got it, but he talked about demurrage, okay?
I know what it means.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So that's
It is in foreign trade topic. We
yes.
know, Bruna.
All
Woo!
right. Okay. So,
Money.
well, we are at the end of the course, and you already know as much as the teacher. So I'm really happy and proud with the results. Okay. So, all right. So we still have some ground to cover, and we will rush into this so we can finish up the topics that we prepared for today. And obviously, we had some homework that we discussed. Maybe let's start with the keywords from class number 4. Simon, can you read it to us, please?
Sure, here we go. Stages of negotiations, preparation, opening, exploration, bargaining, closure, implementation, business transactions, strategic alliances, intellectual property, mitigate risks, geopolitical instability, profitability, assumptions.
All right, thank you so much. And also we had some homework which we tried to present to you some case studies, a case study related to a contract where you could at least try to pinpoint or find some of the elements of a contract. Did you have any success? How did you feel doing this exercise? Did you have the opportunity to go through the document? Just feel free to
Teacher,
say it's just an exercise, okay?
teacher, I'm sorry, but I was thinking this homework for next Tuesday, next week.
No,
That's
No,
okay. That's
it's
possible
okay.
too. Yeah,
Well,
it's okay.
it's okay. Yeah,
I was sure.
Mhm.
next Tuesday we we have the assessment, but the idea here,
Ah,
Bruna, did you have any questions regarding this homework? Did you have the chance to go through the document or no?
Yes, I did. It was clear I could find all the topics,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a tough job because it's a lot of information, but we can find it on the
Good,
contract.
good.
I didn't have any problems, but like Laura, I wasn't prepared to talk about it today because I thought the Daniel would fill up all of our time.
Mhm. No, don't worry about it. So
Yeah,
that's
I would.
why we prepared. That's why
Yep.
we prepared the material for you because as you can, we will see after we share this presentation with you. We put here each of these informations on each slide. Okay, the background information, the agreements, the obligations, and terminations. Okay, so pretty much. You can find all other examples in the document representing this elements of the contract, but it's just for you to have an overview of how or what are the most important information to have in the tip of your tongue. Okay, so it's in the material. You can go through that with no problem. So
Okay. You
go
said
ahead.
we didn't have to write down all the topics, right? We could just highlight on the contract file. Okay, just to see if
Yeah.
I understand clearly.
Yeah. It was just an
Right.
exercise, okay? It's just because like we discussed last class, for the assessment, we will bring you like a small paragraph regarding some contract information. Don't worry, don't panic. It's just by looking at the keywords, okay? I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to identify what element of the contract this is about. But since this is a contract analysis module, we would like to present that on the assessment. So don't worry about it, okay?
I will submit my homework, teacher,
Don't worry.
up to Sunday. Yeah.
Don't worry. If you just study for the assessment in the next class, that will be perfect, okay?
Mhm.
All right. So, well, we would like to present you like the cherry on the top for contract analysis and negotiations, okay? Which we call best practices, okay? And we say best practices because this, as we will see here, they are a group of many actions and activities that you can exercise it and do it on your own. And as you practice these exercises, or as you, if you practice these tips that we will present it to you, I'm pretty sure that this will increase your visibility in the company, because I think one of the things that we discover in this course is that it's not easy reading and analyzing contracts. So let's see that in the positive way, because don't think that we are the only one exclusively that believe that this activity is tough, and this is very common. And there are a lot of people that say that they do it, but in fact they are not doing as we think is the best practice for this activity. So regarding contract analysis, we would like to bring it to you the concept of the best practices. Okay, there are techniques, methods that you can do it on your own and evaluate and manage these contracts, okay? Because pretty much what we're looking here is we're focusing on things that are very clear, that they're enforceable, there are no ambiguities, because you can find contracts with ambiguities that in the first page they say one thing and in the middle they say another thing, and what do you do, right? So the most important thing is to understand the strategic objectives for that partnership. So you can make it, you can adjust it, or you can read it with that mindset, okay? So best practice includes reviewing the components of the contracts for consistency, clarity, assessing the obligations and risks, okay? And we believe that by following these practices, you can bring it to the company solutions that will mitigate risks, prevent disputes, and enhance the efficiency of these agreements, okay? So when you are analyzing a contract, just be prepared to look into these informations, okay? For example, understand the purpose. What's the purpose of this contract? What's in the agreement, okay? It has to be very clear to you, the goals and the objectives. Another thing is to, obviously, like we've said before, you have to read it through it at least once, okay? Because once you see the big picture, it will be easier for you to pinpoint specific informations later on when you need it, just to consult that information. You know, Danielle told us that every once in a while, when you're in a conversation, in a meeting, sometimes they can just bring the contract right in front of you and say, okay, the contract says this, and what are you going to do? Okay, so this is very important. If you don't say anything, you show to them that you don't know what's in there. Okay, so that gives them a lot of power to negotiate changes in the contract. For example, identify the key clauses, okay? Try to look, obviously, we talk about the payment terms, the deliverables, the obligations, deadlines, termination conditions, and dispute resolutions mechanisms, okay? Because as we have seen, in the duration of a contract, problems may arise, as we've seen on the videos last class. So it's important for you to have clear mechanisms on how you conduct these situations, okay? Once again, check for ambiguities, okay? see vague terms, things that are not clear, or for example, when you say things like, oh, the warehouse will operate during business hours. Business hours. Based on what? Business hours in Brazil, business hours in the United States? No, you have to say it from 7 to 5, from 9 to 10, 24 hours, 7 days a week, okay? Obviously, legal compliance, and then that's very important because sometimes you are working in an industry that has a specific requirements, okay? When you're talking about for example, electronics, or when you're talking about pharmaceuticals. So it's important for you to know the business that you're in, okay? And see compliance issues in the contract, okay? Once again, as you read it, as you practice more, and as you participate in negotiations, you will be able to evaluate risks and liabilities. Liabilities are things that can happen in the future that can damage the contract or the relationship. And so it's important for you to know these risks, okay? And there are risks, obviously. Review obligations and responsibilities. This is very important, okay? Especially in logistics, because sometimes the guys from procurement are the ones that are negotiating the contract. But we, as logistics manager, logistics supervisors, we are the contract, we are the clients of that contract, okay? So you must know at least what's written there, so you can you don't have to knock on a procurement door every other day and say, hey, these guys are not doing that, these guys are not doing that. So once you know the obligations and responsibilities, you can negotiate smaller things. You don't have to wait for the QBRs to approach a supplier or a seller. Okay, so another thing, analyze termination clauses, okay? And I think we discussed this on class number 2. Contracts, sometimes they terminate, and they terminate because many different issues. Sometimes you find a new supplier that wasn't available back in the time that you signed that contract. So now you have another player in the market, and they are very aggressive with quality and money and prices. And then even if your contract has some penalties regarding terminations, sometimes for us analysts, operations managers, we have to see that, okay, I'm gonna terminate this contract and I'm gonna have to pay this penalty. But this penalty will be lesser than the saving that I will get in 1 year or in 6 months. And so it can be very interesting to terminate a contract. Sometimes you have contracts that are old and they are being there forever, and sometimes these parties are not willing to negotiate. So make sure that termination clauses are very clear in your mind, okay? So verify dispute resolution mechanisms, as we say. How do I conduct a situation? Okay, the guy, he damaged my product, he didn't deliver on time, he didn't pay what he was supposed to. So you have to know these mechanisms, so you don't kind of like you don't contaminate the contract, the relationship. Remember, Daniel said that relationship networking is very important. So if you have a financial problem with your contract, let your finance team negotiate with their finance team, okay? Don't get into that dispute, because they have mechanisms to resolve that, and you don't have to get involved with. All right, negotiate amendments like we discussed in QBRs. Try to always get a better analysis on the QBRs, so the contract will be more custom made for your operations. And obviously implement a management system, okay? As we talked in this course, along this course, how many things that you can do to manage the contracts and all of them working together with your company. Sometimes you have different vendors that you have contracts, and you have to be careful not to create a unbalance between the contracts. So try to create this management system. It can be a spreadsheet, can be a notebook. Just make sure you can do that on your own. All right. And obviously, if you don't do that, if you don't act in favor of the operation in favor of your company, if you fail to manage the contract, you can create very difficult problems to the company, because that can lead to a financial and an operational challenge. You can have an impact on long-term business success, and it is always related to how you negotiate. For example, the company I work for today, we had a contract that we set with a vendor in February, and there we established a quantity of products that we were going to buy throughout 6-month period, and we had many items, technological items, and with high prices, obviously, and we managed to we put in the contract how many items we will be buying during the 6-month period. And for me, as a purchasing department, I was always looking with my inventory levels of those items that we were committed to purchase. And I was talking with the sales team, I was talking with the logistics guys, and say, hey, in 15 days, we expect to issue another purchase order with all these items. Do you think they are? Do you think that will be good for us if we follow this schedule? And sometimes during the 6-month period, we had shipments that we just call them in advance, like 2 or 3 weeks before, and we say, hey, can we have this item that we were supposed to buy 1,000, and this one that we're supposed to buy 500, but this one is not selling as much as the first one. So can we switch, instead of buying 500 of this second item, can we buy just 100 and turn this this money into buying more 200 or 250 items of the item number one? Okay, so this is also managing contracts, because that information is in the contract. Okay, so when you work ahead, you prevent many problems like legal disputes, litigation. Okay, when you actually have fight now in courts, financial losses. This is very tough, and this is also superpower for you, because if you do a very good analysis, you also be able to prevent that in the future. Compliance issues, operational disruptions. Remember when Daniel said that during the pandemic, they had to just buy as much as they could because they had a high inventory level. So to avoid disruptions, you have to, this is also managing contracts. Reputational damages. Have you heard about Zara, right? How they did some contracts with Chinese manufacturers that were using kids or slave workers, right? So that can affect your reputation. Also missed opportunities as well, and difficulty enforcement. I've worked in a company when we had a contract for the contract was supposed to last for 10 years. And then on the second year, we found out a ambiguity in the contract. So when we discussed with the supplier, they said, well, it's ambiguous to you as it is to me. So we don't have a clear understanding of this topic. So we have to open up negotiations again to clear out this information. And the negotiations were never done. They were very strict on finding a common ground. So we had a very high penalty if we terminate the contract. So we had to manage to load as much as we could the deliverables, the purchases from that company, and we had to find another supplier buying the same items, but they had a better relationship because we couldn't enforce with that provider the things that we wanted and that they thought that they could enforce it when they signed the contract. Okay, so this is very, very important and will create a lot of value to your position in the company. Okay, because it's hard, because it's tough, and nobody wants to do it. Okay, so as for this class, we want to show it to you how you can be successful in doing and exercising contract analysis. And I'm pretty positive, like we talked in the beginning of this module, procurement and all the areas involved, procurement, I believe is one of the top paying positions in logistics and supply chain. Okay. So we've reached the end of the class today. We have the keywords for today. Simon, please, could you read them to us, please?
Sure. Contract components, consistency, clarity, disputes, context, contract clauses, ambiguities, legal compliance, liabilities, litigation, disruptions, amendments, reputational damage, missed opportunities.
All right. Thank you so much, Simon S. And for our class interaction, we would like to give you some homework, very easy, very fast for you to do it. Pretty much try to bring for the beginning of the class, next class, we will have the assessment, but we'll leave some time for us to just, for you to bring your perception of the presentation that Daniel gave it to us. So just try to answer these 4 questions. If you'd like to send me by email, it would be great for next class. Otherwise, we'll just quickly review them in the beginning of next class where we will have the assessments. Okay, so little homework for you, and I hope you enjoyed today the guest speaker and the best practice of contract analysis. Okay.
We enjoyed it a lot.
All right, that's good feedback. Thank you so much, Luna.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened to Laura?
She
out.
said her internet was.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. So, did you enjoy it, Bruna? How was it for you?
It was amazing. He speaks a lot, but it was great because it was clear and full of detailed information. You can ask me questions. I know how to answer.
All right, that's what we want. Thank you.
Conversation.
What about the guys from the warehouse? Are you already tipping in and talking to them and say, hey, I know that, I know what you're doing here?
At my work?
Yeah.
Actually, there's like a kind of a fight between my department and the logistics department.
I know how you feel, right?
But yeah,
but these are the types of negotiations that we talked today, right? We have to negotiate. We're always negotiating, right? So as we get better on this exercise, you can get things much easier than other people, and especially in a foreign language. So if you
Yeah,
can negotiate in English, that will open many doors to you.
yeah, that's true. I have two coworkers that they're very interested in the course because
Mhm.
especially these past days, I was telling them about these negotiation practices you guys are doing with us, and
Mhm.
and they found it's amazing. They are asking me if you guys do any kind of group, any kind of promotion that they could reach,
Mhm.
maybe to make this course or another one that involves negotiation, because they really like this practice that,
Mhm.
and I keep
Definitely.
telling them about some details and everything we
Mhm.
learn here. And I told
Sure.
them to send a message.
Sure.
Yes, if you
Shared.
can, if you can share their emails or things like that with us, maybe we can get in
Yeah,
contact.
and you can share our WhatsApp number, Bilingual Minds WhatsApp number that we have, Bruna. You can
Okay.
share it with them too, so it makes it easier for them to ask any questions they have, and we'll
Mhm.
try and help them.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And the idea of this whole course was to bring it to you the general overview of the English for logistics, not the logistics in English, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Yeah, right.
it's we have the chance to customize it and be specific and dive on topics that are more needed for the company. So I'm really happy that we already have this body of work now,
Mhm.
5 months after we started, 30 hours of classes. So we already have a product to show. So yeah, we're pretty much happy and prepared for those necessities. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so Bruna, have a great weekend.
Thank you, you too.
And we'll see you on Tuesday in our last class, our farewell class.
All right.
Yeah.
See you on
Have a good
Tuesday.
night. Bye bye,
Thank you.
Bruna.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Have a good
Bye.
night. Bye.
Bye.